You don't notice it at first. It feels normal, almost invisible. The way you hesitate before speaking. The way you overthink a simple text message. The way you feel a strange sense of relief when plans get cancelled, even if you were excited about them. You tell yourself, that's just how I am. But what if it's not? What if some of the habits you've carried your entire life aren't personality traits at all? What if they're echoes of something you don't even remember clearly? Because childhood neglect doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like being fine. And sometimes it follows you into adulthood in ways so subtle you mistake them for who you are. There's a certain kind of person who apologizes for everything. They say sorry when someone bumps into them. They say sorry before asking a question. They say sorry just for existing in a space that feels like it doesn't belong to them. At first, it seems like politeness. Maybe even kindness. But if you watch closely, there's something else underneath. A quiet belief that they are always the problem. Imagine a child who grows up in an environment where their needs are inconvenient. Where expressing emotions is met with annoyance, dismissal, or indifference. Over time, that child learns something dangerous. My feelings are too much. My needs are a burden. So they shrink. They soften their presence. They apologize, not because they've done something wrong, but because they've learned that existing loudly comes with consequences. And that belief doesn't just disappear when they grow up. It evolves. It becomes a habit. Another habit is the need to read people constantly. You walk into a room, and without thinking, you scan everything. The tone of voices. The smallest facial expressions. The shift in someone's posture. You can tell when something is off, even before anyone says a word. People might call it intuition. But it's not just intuition. It's survival. When a child grows up in an unpredictable emotional environment, where attention, affection, or approval comes and goes without warning, they become hyper-aware. They have to. Because understanding the emotional climate of others becomes the only way to feel safe. So they learn to read between the lines. To anticipate reactions. To adjust themselves before anything goes wrong. And later in life, that same skill makes them incredibly perceptive. But also, incredibly exhausted. Because their mind never really turns off. There's another pattern that feels almost contradictory. You crave connection, deeply. But when it actually gets close, you pull away. You might find yourself wanting someone to understand you, to see you, to stay. But the moment they do, something shifts. You feel uncomfortable. Exposed. Maybe even trapped. So you create distance. You reply slower. You cancel plans. You start noticing flaws that weren't there before. You convince yourself that maybe this isn't what you wanted after all. But that's not the truth. The truth is, closeness feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels unsafe. A child who grows up without consistent emotional support doesn't learn how to sit comfortably in connection. They don't learn that being seen can be safe. So even when they find the very thing they've always wanted, their mind treats it like a threat. And they leave, before they can be left. Then there's the habit of doing everything alone. You don't ask for help. Even when you need it. Even when it would make things easier. There's a quiet pride in being independent. In handling things yourself. In not relying on anyone. But if you look deeper, it's not just independence. It's isolation disguised as strength. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that help doesn't come. Or worse, that asking for it leads to disappointment. So you stopped asking. You figured it out on your own. And now, even when people offer support, it feels uncomfortable. Unnatural. Like you're breaking some unspoken rule. So you smile and say, "I've got it." Even when you don't. There's also a strange relationship with emotions. You feel things, but not fully. Or sometimes, not at all. Moments that should make you happy feel muted. Moments that should make you sad feel distant. It's like there's a layer between you and your own experiences. You go through life, functioning, but not fully feeling. This isn't because you're cold. It's because at some point, feeling became too much. For a child whose emotions were ignored, dismissed, or invalidated, there's no safe space to process them. No one to guide them through what they're experiencing. So they adapt. They numb. They disconnect, not because they want to, but because it's the only way to cope. And that disconnection becomes a default state. Even years later. Another habit hides in the way you handle mistakes. You don't just acknowledge them, you dwell on them. Replay them. Analyze them from every angle. A small error can feel like a massive failure. A simple misunderstanding can turn into hours, sometimes days, of overthinking. Because deep down, mistakes don't just feel like mistakes. They feel like proof. Proof that you're not enough. Proof that you've done something wrong. Proof that you've failed in a way that might cost you connection or approval. And that fear doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a time when mistakes weren't met with understanding, but with silence, withdrawal, or subtle rejection. So now, you try to get everything right. Not because you want to be perfect, but because being imperfect once felt unsafe. There's also a habit that looks like kindness on the surface. You put others first. Always. You make sure everyone else is comfortable. You adjust your plans, your preferences, even your personality, to fit what others need. People appreciate it. They call you thoughtful. Selfless. Easy to be around. But they don't see the cost. Because while you're taking care of everyone else, no one is taking care of you. And the truth is, you don't know how to ask them to. Because somewhere deep down, you believe your needs don't matter as much. Or worse, that they don't matter at all. And so you give, and give, and give. Until there's nothing left. Then there's the discomfort with stillness. Silence feels heavy. Being alone with your thoughts feels unsettling. So you distract yourself. With your phone. With noise. With constant stimulation. Not because you enjoy it, but because slowing down means facing something you've been avoiding. When a child grows up without emotional connection, they don't learn how to sit with themselves comfortably. Their inner world becomes a place of unanswered questions, unresolved feelings, quiet confusion. So as an adult, stillness doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like something you need to escape from. There's also the way you respond to praise. When someone compliments you, you deflect. You downplay it. You laugh it off. Or immediately point out something you did wrong. Because accepting it feels wrong. Feels uncomfortable. Almost like you're pretending to be something you're not. And that's because you never fully internalized the idea that you are worthy of recognition. If a child grows up without consistent affirmation, without being seen and appreciated, they don't build that inner sense of worth. So even when others see it, they can't. Not fully. Another subtle habit is expecting people to leave. Even when there's no reason to. You might not say it out loud. But it's there. In the back of your mind. A quiet assumption that eventually they'll lose interest. They'll get tired. They'll walk away. So you prepare for it. You keep a part of yourself guarded. You don't fully invest. You don't fully trust. Because if you expect it, it won't hurt as much when it happens. But here's the thing. That expectation can shape reality. It can create distance where there was none. It can turn neutral moments into signs of rejection. It can make you pull away from people who had no intention of leaving. And slowly, it becomes a pattern. One that feels like confirmation, but started as protection. There's also the habit of minimizing your own experiences. You tell yourself, it wasn't that bad. Others had it worse. I'm just overthinking. Even when something clearly affected you. Even when it still does. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting that something was missing. Something important. And that's a difficult thing to face. So instead, you dismiss it. You normalize it. You convince yourself that it doesn't matter. But it does. It always has. And maybe the most subtle habit of all is not knowing yourself. Not really. You know what you're supposed to like. What you're supposed to want. What you're supposed to be. But when you strip all of that away, there's uncertainty. Because when a child grows up adapting to others constantly, they don't get the chance to explore who they are. They become what's needed. What's acceptable. What's safe. And over time, that becomes their identity. Or at least, what feels like one. But underneath it, there's something else. Something quieter. Something that was never fully developed. And sometimes, you feel it. In moments where nothing feels quite right. In decisions that don't feel fully yours. In a sense that there's something missing, but you can't quite name it. And this is where everything starts to shift. Because once you begin to see these habits for what they are, they stop being invisible. They stop being just who you are. They become something else. Clues. Patterns. Signals pointing back to something that was never fully addressed. And that realization can feel uncomfortable. Maybe even overwhelming. Because it changes the way you see yourself. The way you see your past. The way you understand your reactions, your relationships, your choices. But it also does something else. It gives you awareness. And awareness is where change begins. Not overnight. Not all at once. But slowly. In the moments where you catch yourself apologizing and pause. In the moments where you notice yourself pulling away and question why. In the moments where you allow yourself to feel, even if it's uncomfortable. Because these habits, they were never random. They were learned. And anything that's learned can be unlearned. Or at least, understood. And understanding yourself in a way you never have before. That's where something new begins. Not a completely different version of you. But a more honest one. A version that isn't just reacting, but choosing. And maybe, for the first time, feeling like you're not just surviving your patterns, but actually seeing them. And that changes everything. If any of this felt familiar, if parts of it felt uncomfortably accurate, then you're not alone in this. There are more people carrying these patterns than you think, quietly, invisibly, just like you might have been. And sometimes, the first step isn't fixing anything. It's simply recognizing it. So if this opens something in you, even a small realization, stay with it. And if you want to explore more of these hidden patterns, the ones most people never talk about, then subscribe. Because the more you understand what's been shaping you, the more control you start to take back. And maybe, that's where things finally begin to change.